everyone, welcome to Kinaway TV. Today we are going to go through part 3 of the mindfulness sessions. Before we get started, I'd just like to acknowledge country. Today I'm coming to you from Wurundjeri land, so I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And we've got Brendon, the Wellbeing clinician for Kinaway, here with us again to give us the key takeaways from last week's session and take us through part 3 on mindfulness. Hi, Brendon. You're muted.
Right. Is that better? Yes, good. Okay. Hi, Deb. Hi, everyone. How you going? Sorry about that. So part 3 to mindfulness. The reason why we wanted to break this up into a few parts is because there is a little bit of information to dissect, and we don't want to overwhelm people with too much info. So that's why we've broken it up a little bit. But for you guys who don't know, my name is Brendon Hede. I am the small business wellbeing clinician based at Kinaway. I'm here to support all the members of Kinaway, the business owners, also your staff and your families. The service that I provide is completely free, also private and confidential. So if you've noticed anyone that showing signs of distress, maybe some pressure, some anxiety, depression even, give them the number. It's 1-800-Kinaway. I'm working Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, and I am available. So that phone number will come straight through to me, and you can give me a call anytime and just chat about anything. If anything's bothering you, if you want to just get something off your chest, that's what I'm here for. So getting onto this mindfulness presentation, if you haven't seen part 1 or 2, you can go back and have a look at them on all of our platforms. You'll find them on our website or on LinkedIn or on Facebook or anything like that. So you can go back and just, when you've got time, just go through it. Part 1, when we kicked it off, we decided to just talk about how the mind works. And then, we talked a little bit about what is mindfulness. And we went down the path of talking about where our mind goes, and some simple skills when you have those thoughts, particularly when they start to take hold of us. And we talked about our thoughts, what are they? And we talked about engaging what's called our wise mind versus our reactive mind when it comes to these thoughts. So we went through that, and then in the second week, we talked more about our emotions, how our thoughts relate to our emotions, and then we went on to talking about how we can take action in line with our values, and what are some of the facts around values and how important they are to each and every one of us. And we sort of finished off the last session talking about how to become a little bit more resilient, particularly when we can learn to recognize when a situation is inside or outside our sphere of influence. So that's kind of where we left it off in part 2. So we'll now just kick off part 3. If you guys, if you are listening and you want to make some notes, please do so, because there'll be some stuff that will resonate with you, and maybe some stuff that doesn't. But when it comes to mindfulness, look, it's a popular word right now in today's society, and if we can learn some mindfulness, it does help us in our day-to-day lives. So that's about it, Deb, as far as the rundown goes. We want to kick it off.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, so my first question, Brendon, is how do we respond to events inside and outside our sphere of influence?
Yeah, we touched on the sphere of influence. So, okay, consider this scenario. Let's a paramedic, let's call her Jess, is en route to a traffic accident. It's raining heavily. The weather and the level of traffic are obviously both outside Jess's sphere of influence. The route she takes and the way she drives are inside her sphere of influence. So what should Jess do? She first needs to recognise the rain and the traffic are outside that sphere of influence. There is simply nothing she can do about them. Next, she can notice the emotions she's feeling and name that emotion. Then Jess can acknowledge the value connected to this emotion. She's feeling frustrated because she values life. Jess can take a few deep breaths and allow herself to work with the emotion. It may be helpful for her to practice creating space, which we've talked about earlier. So finally, Jess can concentrate on what is inside her sphere of influence and do what matters most. With greater awareness, Jess can connect with the present moment, focusing her attention on taking the right route and getting there as quickly and safely as possible. I'll give you another example. Let's say a person has just presented his proposal at a management meeting. Let's call him James. James is worried that if it didn't go well, but there is nothing more he can do. The decision about the proposal is now outside his sphere of influence. And despite this, James's reactive mind is still very worked up. It's rapidly trying to solve or trying to problem solve, replay the past, and make crystal ball predictions. With his reactive mind tangled up in the situation, he first needs to call upon his wise mind. To help him do this, he could utilize any one of the mindfulness skills he's already learned.
So, what are some facts about our sphere of influence?
Yeah, well, first fact is when a situation is outside your sphere of influence, you may experience heightened emotions. For example, you might feel more. We might feel more nervous when sitting on the bench rather than when on the field participating in a game. Another fact is that when a situation is within our sphere of influence, taking action in line with our values will help us nurture your sense of purpose and can bolster psychological resilience. And another fact, unless we own a time machine, everything in the past is completely outside your sphere of influence. When we find ourselves continually getting stuck in replay mode, mindfulness can be used to engage your wise mind, reconnect with the present moment, and return us to making mindful choices. Regularly taking notice of our sphere of influence can help us to gain greater perspective and worry less about things that are outside our control.
Yeah, replay mode can be such a waste of time and much a waste of brain space.
Yeah.
So, can we now move to talking about compassion?
Yes, compassion can be an incredibly powerful force. It can provide comfort, healing, and relief from emotional suffering. But unfortunately, some people still equate compassion with weakness. It's one of those stigmas. In your life, in our lives, we've probably faced pressure to turn off our compassion, to block out our emotions and try to be tough. But trying to be tough won't make us resilient. Humans are emotional creatures. We need our emotions. Trying to block them out or fight against them often results in far greater suffering. When we practice self-compassion, we allow ourselves to replace struggle with caring. Compassion involves mindfully directing warmth, kindness, and support towards yourself, particularly when facing struggle, personal challenges, and shortcomings. Self-compassion requires action by regularly offering acts of kindness and support to yourself, and you can become more resilient.
So, what then are some facts about self-compassion?
Yeah, research has found that many people struggle to engage in self-compassion because they fear being overwhelmed by challenging emotions. And another common barrier to self-compassion is having a harsh inner critic and a feeling of being unworthy of compassion. And others falsely equate compassion with weakness. Many people find it difficult to accept compassion because they don't want to burden others, or they're worried about creating an obligation in return, or simply feel awkward receiving kindness. Blocking out compassion can put us at greater risk of depression, anxiety, and stress. We may be more self-critical, are more fearful of making mistakes, and less equipped to cope with failure. When we let compassion in, we can benefit from a range of effective coping strategies, which provide protection against burnout. In the long term, we'll be able to do we're able to do our job more effectively and live our life with less judgment, more openness, and greater empathy. Often we can become compassionate to others, but incredibly harsh towards ourselves. Small nagging thoughts can build up as our reactive minds go into overdrive. Our self-talk can be cruel, unforgiving, and sometimes downright mean. One word which frequently pops up is should. Should is a very dangerous word. Trying to keep up with all the shoulds in our lives can be exhausting. Each time a should thought appears, it can also bring up a feeling that we're not enough. When should dominates, it's easy to become overly focused on shortcomings. This can erode our confidence and willingness to take valued action. When we direct compassion inwards, these shoulds start to have less power over us. We don't have to struggle towards perfection. We don't need to live up to impossible ideals. We can work on our values at our own pace. We can just be us, and that can be 100% enough. Self-compassion requires action. Often it requires prioritizing yourself above a whole lot of other things on that long to-do list. Even small, simple actions can have a significant impact on our overall well-being. Every day, it's helpful to commit at least one act of self-compassion. On really tough days, it's helpful to take 3 or 4 of these actions. If we take a moment to think about what actions we will take today and tomorrow, and on a really difficult day.
So, Brendon, can you give us some examples of how we can demonstrate self-compassion with ourselves?
Yeah, look, we're all a little bit different in that regard. Have a long bath, have a long hot bath. Buy yourself some flowers. Go for a swim. Cook your favourite meal. Play with your pets. Watch your favourite comedy show on TV. Practice a mindfulness exercise. Have a massage. Get away from technology. There's some famous quotes around self-compassion. Compassion is a verb, therefore compassion requires action. Unlike self-criticism, which asks if we're good enough, self-compassion asks what's good for us. And the Dalai Lama says compassion and tolerance are not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. So, remember, allowing ourselves to connect with compassion will help make us more resilient and protect us from burnout. So we've got to be good to ourselves. Make it a habit to talk to ourselves with kindness and take compassion actions every day.
What are some brain and body boosters?
Yeah, look, our brain is the most fantastically complex thing we'll ever own. It's this incredibly hardworking machine is made up of countless connections and a very delicate balance of enzymes and proteins and neurochemicals. How you treat your brain will determine how it performs. So sleep. exercise, and nutrition can all have major impacts on our mental health. The skills we are learning in these mindfulness presentations also have the power to significantly boost our brains. Studies have shown that practicing mindfulness can actually help build grey matter and develop the frontal lobes, which are responsible for decision making, focused attention, and high level thinking. By treating our brains and body right, we could also decrease the likelihood of suffering from stress, emotional burnout, and a range of common mental health conditions. Sleep has more curative properties. Um, that's than any drug known to man. Your brain loves sleep. Sleep refreshes and clears the mind. Without sleep, your brain is reduced to operating in a fairly sad and pathetic manner. Stay awake long enough, and simple tasks will become difficult. Um, your scores on every cognitive test will plummet. Should you attempt to drive a car, you'll drive it like a drunk. Sleep deprivation also affects your mood and decision making. As we become more tired, we tend to use the medial frontal cortex of our brain, the part that makes us more rational, far less. Um, while another part of the brain, the amygdala, the emotional center of our brains, becomes far more active. As a result, we can become more reactive and less mindful. Neuroscientists have discovered sleep is the only time our brains can perform the vital tasks of cleaning out toxins and excess nutrients. Um, Regular restorative sleep protects against burnout and a range of common and mental health conditions, including anxiety and depression.
So, can you give us a few more facts about mindfulness, please?
Yep, sure. Look, practicing mindfulness is far more effective than counting sheep. Mindfulness can help calm your body and your reactive mind to help prepare you for sleep. Switching off your devices can help you prepare for sleep. So, after a strenuous day, we may find ourselves watching TV while paying bills and checking social media on different screens. Unfortunately, all this device juggling and multitasking doesn't let our brain wind down. The light emitted from these devices also interferes with sleep hormones and keeps our brain buzzing. While we may like to be wild and unpredictable, our bodies don't always appreciate this. It's helpful to establish a regular sleeping pattern. And if we're performing shift work, it's important to plan ahead. Make sure we set aside time for sleep, and develop a regular pre-sleep routine, which might include things like have a warm shower or put on some relaxing music or some gentle stretching. Um, and exercise is the third one. So exercise is an incredibly powerful mood elevator. It stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, generating new neurons and boosting neuron connections. So regular exercise has been shown to markedly improve mental well-being and decrease the effects of depression, anxiety, and other mood disorders. Aerobic exercise can actually enhance your brain, generating new neurons and boosting neural connections. So it can help us better store and process information and protect our mental health as we get older. Exercise has some very good side effects. It increases energy, makes our heart stronger, and improves our life expectancy. And in extreme cases, it can actually give you tight buns and rock hard abs. And you know what? I'll talk a little bit about that exercise in the next session. I think that might be enough for today because there's a lot of information there that people can now go back and have another little listen and see if they can make some notes. And if there's something that resonates with them, they can take it on board and try a couple of these little things that we've given them, particularly some of the strategies in the earlier sessions. But we'll finish off next week with part 4, which we'll sort of finish on the exercise part, and then we'll also go into the nutrition for our brain, and why it's important. And we'll finish off next on the next session in part 4. We'll probably do that next week, Deb. So what I'd like to do, if that's okay with you, is just finish off with another simple mindfulness exercise.
Yep, sure, that'd be great.
All right. It's very similar to the one we did last week. So if everyone's there now in a nice, comfortable, quiet spot, and you can sit with your feet flat on the floor and maybe just place your hands on your knees. And you can take a nice, big, deep breath, fill up your lungs, and hold it for a second. And when you exhale, you can close your eyes. Get rid of the surface tension in your body and let your shoulders relax. It's okay to relax right now. Focus on your breathing. And as that relaxation and comfort, allow it to just run through your toes. And along the bottom of your feet. And up the back of your heel. And while you've got that breathing, allow that sense of comfort to come up through your ankle, up through your calf muscles and behind your knee. Focus on your breathing and get that comfort to come up now through your hamstrings, up around your backside and into your lower back. Really allow that feeling of comfort and relaxation now. Come up through your back, up towards your shoulder blades and onto your shoulders. As you're breathing, keep the breathing going. That's right. Allow that comfort and relaxation to drop over your shoulders and down your arms, into your forearms, and all the way down into your hands and into your fingers. That's right. And with that nice deep breathing, that feeling of comfort and relaxation can now come up through your back of your neck, into the back of your head and over your scalp. Let it just slowly fall over your forehead and down the face, through your cheeks, through your jaw, and now down the front of your neck. Keep the breathing going. Let that feeling of comfort now down through your chest, through your abdomen and down past your hips. Feel it now crawl down through your thighs and over your knees, down your shins, back down to your feet and toes. Nice, deep, slow breathing and relaxation. And when you're ready, you can just open your eyes and come back to us. And as I've said before in the last couple of sessions, Deb and everybody else, that's just a simple mindfulness exercise you can do at home. It's like a bit of a body check or a body scan. Look, it needs to be quiet. It needs to be a nice, safe, quiet space. So I don't know when is the perfect time for everyone to do it. I usually find after I get home from work, before the house gets too busy, I can do that. Now I did that and I think it took somewhere around 5 minutes, and most of the times when I do it twice. So and the second time around I really do focus on that deep breathing, nice, slow, deep, taking as much air in as I can into my lungs. And I do the scan twice. Sometimes I'll take a bit longer, like we've sort of rushed that one towards the end a little bit, but excuse me, but you can take as long as you like. But if you can do it a couple of times, that means 10 minutes. 10 minutes a day is really good for mindfulness. And that's just another way of practicing mindfulness, is just learning how to relax and be calm and comfortable. And that's about it, mate.
Thank you very much, Brendon, for another informative session and a little mindfulness exercise at the end. It was really helpful. Thank you. It was great to be reminded of sphere of influence, like only worrying about what's within my control and letting go of what's beyond my control. So thank you for that reminder.
You're welcome.
I look forward to the last session next week about exercise and nutrition. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Deb. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye.